Okay. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining today's session. And we are into our 7th day of our core Java sessions. So what are we going to learn in this session for today? What are we going to learn in this session for today? We will be learning about the static initialization blocks. The static initialization blocks. So before I speak something about static initialization blocks, I wanted to do a very quick recap of what has been taught in the previous class. The reason is today's class is going to be a continuation of whatever we have learned in the previous class. Not just today's class, guys. Every class is a chain to each other. Like you have to understand the previous class perfectly to make sure that you are understanding the current class as well. So that is why, if you remember, I asked everyone to have a quick look before you come and join today's class. Okay. So as promised, this is the notes that was shared to you in your previous class. I would like to take a very quick overview of, or I can say a recap of whatever has been done in the previous class. So let's quickly go. Let's quickly do. It's not a rush, but let's do it in a quick part. So what is that? We learned about the static variables. In my previous class, I have explained about local variables to you. And in the last class, we saw about the static variables. So what are static variables? So we thought about there are two types of memory. One is a stack memory, and then there is a heap memory. The stack memory is like a RAM, and the heap memory is like a hard disk. So these 6 points are something that I'd like to repeat and then would quickly jump into the static initialization block for today. Okay, so let's have a very quick recap of what is what are the important points for static variables. So what are the loading operations? This six, let me repeat. Whenever we are running a particular class, the class is loaded into stack memory. What is stack memory, guys? It is RAM. RAM is nothing but random access memory. Let's not go into all those operating system level details, but you can understand that a RAM memory is something that is dealing with this stack memory. And if we go to the next, when a particular class is loaded into a stack memory, all the static variables and all the static methods are loaded into stack memory. If you remember, Shashi sir has drawn a diagram where the class is loaded into stack memory, and along with that, all the static variables would also be loaded. And then whenever the static variables are loaded into static memory, I can say stack memory, then those are loaded with default values. We have written a program which says what is the default value for each data type. Okay. Now, once the static variables are loaded with default value, then the reinitialization happens from top to bottom. So if you remember, we had a few variables. Initially, they were 0. And then we had assigned some value like 100 or 200. Towards the end in our output, we were able to see the reinitialized values. And the next one is once all the static variables are loaded into stack memory, all the static methods are loaded into stack memory. And then at the end, the JVM starts executing the main method. So these were the very 6 important points. This 6 points should be on your fingertips, guys, because you need to understand how the internal working of the loading of related to these static members takes place. Okay, so now let's go into our agenda for today. Okay, let's go into our agenda for today. So what is that? We will be learning about static initialization blocks. Just give me a second. We'll be learning about the static initialization blocks. Let's quickly see what is static initialization block. See, the name itself says static initialization block. Static is nothing but it might be related to the class members, which means I have given you one example. Static is nothing but it's like a blackboard or a green board in a classroom where it is only one copy that is present per class. So every student can have his own pen or a book. That is an instance variable you can relate to as, and the board you can relate as a static member. Okay. So now let's see a few important points about static initialization blocks. So block is nothing but, what is a block, by the way? What is a block? So I will just say any programmatic piece that starts with a curly brace and then ends with a curly brace, whatever is this inside this, you can call it as block. Okay, you can call this as block. Okay, now this is a block. Now this is a block. Now what is static block? I will just copy this and I will say I'm just pasting it over here. Okay, so if I just add static just before the block, if I just add static before the block, then that becomes a static block. Okay, this becomes a static block. Okay. So this is the syntax for static block. So this one we call it as static initialization block. Okay, what do we call? We call it as static initialization block. So why do we call it as initialization block? Initialization is nothing but there are a few static members, or you can say static variables. Those static variables should be initialized with a particular value, right? For that purpose, we will use this static initialization block. So what are the uses? What are the uses? For example, in my programmatic requirement or in my program or in my project, let's say I need to connect to a particular database. My Java program needs to connect to Oracle database, or my Java program needs to connect to MySQL or any NoSQL databases, right? This kind of activity happens only once when the server starts, or you can say the program starts. That should happen only once. The connection with the database should happen once, and once the connection is established, all the operations or reading from the database, writing to the database, everything would happen. So anything that needs to happen only once, if you have that kind of requirement, then in such a case, you can use static initialization block. Okay, so this in this way, you are seeing the what I can say, the syntaxes. There are 6 points for static variables, correct? There are 6 points for static variables. Now, similarly, there are 7 points, or you can say you can club them as 7 points for static initialization block. Let me write them down one by one, and then let's experiment programmatically. Let's play around and see what the static initialization block means. So what I can say is static. I have already told about this point to you. Static blocks are used to initialize 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 global variables. What are global variables, by the way? What are global variables, by the way? What are global variables, by the way? These are static variables. If you remember, we have seen the static members are called as class members, global members, or universal members. I'm just using one of those names. These are global variables, or I can say global, the global, as I told you, static members are something that can be called with these three names. I'm speaking about the global variables at this particular point. Now let's quickly see our second point. So what is that? What is that? Static blocks are executed when class is loaded into the memory. So when are these static blocks executed? I will just quickly write static blocks are executed. Let me increase the font so that you can see it in a better way. Okay. Yeah. Static blocks are executed. When are they executed? When class is loaded into memory. When the class is loaded into memory. This is a very important point. Now let's see the third important rule. SIB, which is static initialization block, SIBs are initialized only, or I can say executed, not initialized, I can say executed only once. So as I told you previously, if we have a requirement where our program needs to connect to any particular database, then in such a case, it should connect to the database only once. For every request that you make, it should not go to the database and make a connection. So if you are doing something for the only first time, or you should do something only once in such a case, then you are using SIB. And the third rule says SIBs are executed only once. Okay, let's quickly see the fourth point. Let's quickly see the fourth point. A class can have multiple SIB. Okay, so one class can have more than one static initialization blocks. More than one static initialization block. Let's quickly see the fifth point. So what is that? SIB are executed from top to bottom. So in our program, we can have multiple SIBs. That is what we have we have seen in the fourth point. So when there are multiple SIBs, what is the order of execution? They are executed from top to bottom. And we also need to club the point number 3. What is that? Only once. So only once. So we can see this, guys. All the points are interrelated, and this is very, very simple. Do not get confused. Okay. Do not get confused. Now, we have come until this particular step, right? We have come until this particular step. Let's try to maybe write a small program to understand what this. Let's see the SIBs in action. There are 2 or 3 other points, guys. We can go to this. We can go to those points as well. But let's see SIBs in action. Okay, let's see SIBs in action. So I will go to my new. So this is Notepad++ that we are using this software for developing our Java programs since our day one. So let's try to quickly write new. I have let me close this. There are 2 ways. One is file new, and the other way is I just say double click over this part and a new file gets created. Now let's say I want to name my class. What is the name? Maybe I can say SIB1. I just want to name it as SIB1. Okay. So what I want, I need to select my language as Java. Okay. I need to select my language as Java. Let me quickly open my curly brace and close my curly brace. So what is the next thing? I have to write public static void main. Okay. This is my main method, and it should accept or string array of arguments. I can say string array of arguments. Okay, so I'll open my curly brace, close my curly brace. So what I want to do is maybe I just want to print something. So I just want to print, say, system dot out dot println. What do I want to print? I can say from main method. So I can say from main method. So I'm just printing this from main method. Let me quickly save this and we'll try to run this. I'll say copy this file, save as. So I'm saving it in desktop Mercy folder. So I have copied my class name. I'm just pasting it over here and say .java. So now I have created one Java file. Let me quickly open my command prompt from the place that I have the programs already. So where is that? In the desktop, I have Mercy, and in here, I'm opening the command prompt. Let me increase the size as much as possible and give you spaces. Now, Java C. So what do I need to do? I'll say SIB. I'm saying copy my class name. So here I am pasting .java. This is my command to compile. So yes, I don't have any compilation problem. Let's see if my class got generated or not, which is SIB. Let me sort it by the date modified. I have a .class file and I have a .java file, right? So now let me quickly run this. I'll say Java and then class name. When I do this, I get from main method. This is a very simple one, guys. We have been speaking about the hello world program or our first program. Our first program is also the same. Now, what do we want? Let me quickly go to the notes. Let me quickly go to the notes. What is my syntax saying? What is my syntax saying? Just a second. What is my syntax saying? My syntax is saying if I include static and if I have an open brace and a closed brace, right? Then that is called as a static block. Okay. Then that is called as a static block. Okay. Let me quickly introduce a static block into my program. This is my program, guys. So let me quickly introduce a static block. So what is that? Static. And then I opened a curly brace and I closed a curly brace, right? This is nothing but a static block. Let me quickly write
Karthik,
it
can
down.
you please increase the font size of Notepad++ and command prompt, please?
Uh,
Yeah, now it's good.
Now it's good. Command prompt, is this fine?
Little bit more.
Okay. Is this good?
Yes, better. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, cool, sure. Let me quickly go here. Okay. So I increased my Notepad++ font to the maximum. Okay. So what is this? We have a class called SIB. We have seen the syntax. Now I have introduced a static block. Let me quickly comment saying that this is a static block. Okay. So this is a static block, right? So I want to see this. I want to see this in action. What is my rule saying as per my notes? What is my rule saying? What is my rule saying? The static blocks are executed when the class is loaded into memory. Static blocks are executed only once, right? Maybe let's try to see if they are if they are executed when the class is loaded into memory. So how do I cross check it? Maybe I will add one system.out.println statement. What I do is I'm just copying this. I selected this copy and I want to paste it in my static block. So what I can say, I will say it is from static block. Okay, this is from static block. Let's see. See, nobody is calling this static block. Nobody is calling this static block. This main method is being called from JVM that we have already discussed. Here, I have just used the static and I want to see, what happens to this particular program. Let me quickly save this. I'll say Control S, which is my shortcut, or the other one is File, Save. Okay, this is disabled because it is already saved. Now, let me try to quickly. So I have cleared my screen. Now here we go. So I can say Java C. What is my class name? My class name is SIB1. I will say copy and I'm pasting it over here. .java. This is my command to compile the Java program. Let me run this Java, then class name. Let's see. So you can see this, guys. The first line that got printed is from static block, and the second one is from main method. Let me quickly copy this. Okay, I want to paste it. I want to paste it over here so that we can understand the output. So what is this? From static block, and the next statement that got printed is from main method. So this is the first one that got printed, and this is the second one that got printed. Let's go to the rule. What is my rule saying? It says static blocks are executed when the class is loaded into the memory, right? If you see the previous class notes is also, what do you call, the main method execution is at the, towards the end of all those 6 steps, right? Here, my rule number 2 says the static blocks are executed when the class is loaded into the memory. So at that particular point only, my static block is getting printed. And towards the end, the main method is called from JVM, and I see that I see that from main method, this particular statement is getting printed because of the call from JVM. Okay. So let me quickly try to add a little bit more to this particular program only. Let me not write one more class. Let's say I want to save this one. I have to save this one. My other part, my other point says a class can have multiple static initialization block. A class can have static initialization blocks, which is not just one, but multiple. Let's try to quickly check if that is possible or not. Maybe I can say static block one. Okay, I can say static block one. I copied this. Okay, I want to paste it over here. So this is static block two. So I will say static block one and I'll say static block two. Okay, so I have a static block over here, and next to this, I have a main method. Now, next to this, I have a static block. Let's try to see. Let's try to see. So I'm saving this. I'm saving this. And once I save this, let me quickly compile and see. I'm clearing my screen. Java C. What is my class name? My class name is SIB1. I just copy this and save.java. My compilation is successful. So how do I run this? Java and then the class name. And here you can see from static block one, from static block two, and then from the main method, right? But it says from static block one, static block two, and the main method. Let me quickly copy this so that I can show it to you. Okay. From static block one, static block two, from main method. So you can see this, guys, even though the static block is present at the top, and then after main method only, I have my second static block. Okay, after main method only, I have a second static block. But if I see the output, I can see from static block one and from static block two. Why did this happen? Because of my rule. What is my rule? My rule says static blocks are executed when class is loaded into memory. When class is loaded into memory, main method is not yet called by JVM. Before that only, before the main method is getting called by JVM, before that only my static blocks are executed. So that is why my both the static blocks are getting printed over here, right? So let's quickly try to see one more example. Now this is a theoretical, or we are able to prove whatever we learned in our rules. We are able to prove that we can have multiple static blocks, and those are loaded in memory when the class at the time of class loading, right? Let's actually see this into action, in actual action. Okay, so what I'd like to do is I want to create a new class. I'd like to create a new class. File, new. Okay, and to create a new class, what do I name it as? I will name it as, maybe I'll name it as 2, SIB2, and I'm opening, yeah, before even this, let me select my language as Java. Okay, I've selected my language as Java. I've written a new class called SIB2. Okay, once I open the curly brace, I have to close it. Now I say public static void main. So it should accept string array of args, string array of args arguments. Okay. I opened my curly brace and I'm closing my curly brace. Okay. So here, this is my main method. But before this, since our class is about static initialization block, I want to take one static variable. Static int, let's say age. Okay. I just want to take one static variable, which is called as age, So my static initialization block will actually do one thing for me. It will initialize my global variable or a static variable. That is what my rule says, right? So let me try to do one thing. It is static. I opened my curly brace and I'm closing my curly brace. I just entered a new line so that it will be good for readability. Now, static int age. So what do I need to do? I need to initialize this. Age equal to, let's say, maybe I want to give the age as 10. Okay, I want to give the age as 10. But before I initialize, I want to see what is my age. So what I can say is system dot out dot println. So what do I want to do? Maybe I want to print, I want to print something like this. I want to print something like this. Just for our readability from SIB. Okay. I want to print something like this from SIB. And one more thing that I want to print is the value of age. So what is that? Age. Sorry. Age equal to. So I just want to add age. Okay. So I want to print age. Okay. So now in the main method, let me add one more system, system.out.println statement. I copied this line number 6 and I want to paste it over here. Okay. I want to paste it over here. Okay. So here I want to say main from main method. Okay. This is from main method. So here, what do I want to do? I want to print my age. I'm copying this and saying printing my age. Right. This is printing my age. This is printing my age. Very simple. There's no confusion whatsoever. So if you have a pen and paper, guys, if you have a pen and paper, just maybe you write down the output for this program. We can try out your understanding. Okay. As I compile and as I run this, you can maybe write in your notebook what is the output of this particular program. So I copied my class name. I'll say save as. Okay. I'll say save as dot Java. So I have saved SIB2. Now let me quickly run this. Okay, I'm giving more enters. Let's say Java C. This is my SIB2.java. Do I have any compile problem? No, I don't have any compilation problem. So let's say I go to Java C or Java and then my class. So I think by this time you have written the output of this particular program. You can just cross check your understanding. You can just cross check your understanding. So you can see this. Let me quickly copy this output and then paste it over here so that we can analyze this further. We can analyze this further. What is this? From SIB. Okay, from SIB. So where is this coming from? This is coming from line number 6. Why is it coming from SIB? Because as I told you, at the time of class loading, the static block will get initialized or the static block will get executed. So since the static block is getting executed, the line number 6 is getting printed. Now, what about line number 7? Line number 7, since the age is loaded with default value, yesterday we have seen a particular rule. Every static variable will get loaded with a default value. So what is the default value for an int? It is 0. The same thing is getting printed over here. Now later on what happens? The JVM comes into picture. It says, let me call main. Okay. It says, let me call main. So it called main. So I get this particular line in my output. What is this? From main method. From main method. Now, by this time, if you can see from line number 8, the value of age got reinitialized to a value of 10. Yesterday, we have seen a diagram where if the reinitialization happens, the existing value gets striked off or it is overwritten to a new value. From line number 8, a particular value called 10 is getting reinitialized. Guys, this is very important to understand that this is the actual use of the static initialization block. So static initialization block. Let me repeat. We have a particular class and in that we have a global variable or we have a static variable. I need to initialize this with a particular value. I can I can do it directly something like this. I can do it something like this. But instead of doing this, I'm following that on line number 8. Why? Because Java has provided me a mechanism to do this kind of things. In our previous programs also, we have seen that the initialization can be done on line number 3. But Java has provided us a way that initialization of any global value, if you want to do, you can do it in a static block. Okay, you can do it in the static block. This is the actual use case. For example, let's say this age is something like a connection, or you want to do some connection to some database, right? You just say some database connection or something you initialize in line number 3. And whatever connection that you are making, whatever code that you want to do only once, you're doing it on line number 8, something like this. Your initialization happens in the static block. Your initialization happens in the static block. Let's quickly go to the rules. Let's quickly go to the rules. So what is that? Static blocks are executed from top to bottom only once. This also we have seen, right? Where did we see? We have seen this one also. We have seen this one also. This is the first static block, and this is my second static block. And if I see the output came something like this. It is executed from top to bottom. From top, this is my first static block, and then there is a main method. This will come into picture when JVM calls, and then there is one more static block, right? There is one more static block which will come into picture, from top to bottom. So that is why our output was from static block 1 and then from static block 2, right? Let's quickly try to do one more thing. Let's quickly try to do one more thing. I want to just play around a little bit in this program. I want to just play around a little bit in this program. So what do I want to do? I want to do something like this. I do not want on line number 3. I do not want this. What do I do is I remove this from line number 3. I clear this. I clear this. So I want to put this in. I want to put this. I want to put this on this particular. I want to put this on this particular line. So maybe I want to initialize this with a particular thing, which is maybe 10. Okay. And here I want to make it as 20. Okay. I want to make it as 20. I want to make it as 20. There are, one or two other rules, guys. We will come to those particular points, once we are done with playing with this program. Okay. So what I did, I have removed my my initialization part on line number 3, and I have put on line number 9. Here, what I'm doing is I'm initializing to line number to 10 on line number 9, and then I'm initializing it to 20 on line number 7. On line number 7. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. If you have a pen and paper, you can guess the output of this and write it so that you can cross verify your understanding. You can cross verify your understanding. You can write it. Maybe it might be a compilation problem, or you can write the output, or you can think that there will be some exception thrown, or whatever. You can write it so that we can cross check our understanding right now. So for that, I'm saving this. I say copy. I say copy. So I'm going here over here. Okay. Let me quickly go here. Java C and then class name dot Java. Okay. I did this. So we have something called. Just give me a second, guys. So we have something called illegal forward reference. Maybe we can see this point. We can see this point later on. I think it will be more confusing to you if I start speaking about the illegal forward references. So let me not do it. Let me not do it. I just want to place it over here only. Okay. I do not want to do a illegal forward reference to you because it'll just be adding more confusion to you. Let me try to let me try to give you a little bit about.
Yeah, you can keep it on top of static block.
Let me do it.
Yeah, on top of static block. Yeah, you can keep it here. Yeah.
Maybe let's try to run this one. Let's see what happens. Okay. So I put this on top of my static block. Okay. Let's try to compile this. Java C. Sorry. What is my class name, by the way? My class name is Agari2. So working dot Java. When I do this, my compilation is successful. I'll say Java and then SIB. So here you can see this guys. Let me quickly copy this line of code. Let me quickly copy this line of code. Okay. So here what it says, here it is saying from static initialization block. That is because that is from line number 6. Okay. Here we are seeing the age is 10, right? Why? Because this initialization already happened on line number 3. Now, as part of my static block, I am doing the initialization to 20 on line number 8. Okay. So now the value becomes 20. Now main method is being called by JVM. And when the main method calls my JVM, here we are saying from main method. That is what I can see over here. And then by the time main method is called, my static block got executed fully. Okay. And then the age value is 20. Right. So here you can see this, guys. It is initially given a value of 10. We have done the initialization over here. In the static block, we reinitialized this. And once all this is done, my main method is being called. Once my main method is called, the latest copy of the static value, the variable value, will be printed over here. So previously we have seen something called illegal forward reference. For me to speak more about it, I have to cover something else, which I'll be coming to you later. Okay. So let's quickly go to the rule. Let's quickly go to the rule once more. Okay. Let me quickly go to the rule once more. So what it says, SIBs are executed top to bottom. As I told you, there are some other rules as well. There are a few other rules as well. So what is that? What is that? I can say something like SIBR, or I can say can be. Let me just take it on. Can be placed anywhere inside the class. Inside the class, Java has no restrictions for you. Java has no restrictions for you to place the SIBs anywhere inside the class. But what is the recommendation? Recommendation is to place it at top of recommendation is to place the SIBs at top of the class. Like for example, let's say you have a class of some 500 lines of code, or let's say some 200, 300 lines of code. When you have a static block at the top, the moment you see the class, you know that there is a static block inside, and you know that there is some initialization that you're doing. Let's say you put the static block somewhere in middle, right? The readability will not be good. And even though Java is allowing that to you, but it's not a good practice to have the static initialization block anywhere in the class. But are you allowed to do so? Yes, you are allowed. Okay, this is one important point that you need to keep it in mind. Okay, one another point that I want to stress out is that we have already seen in working. So what is that? SIBs are executed before main method. Okay, SIBs are executed before main method. This is something again a repetition of, I can say, a line number 2. What is it saying? Static blocks are executed when class is loaded into memory, right? When class is loaded into memory only, static blocks are getting executed. But when will the main method get executed? It gets executed when the JVM calls it. So before the JVM is coming into picture, this static block loading, class loading, etc. happens. So that is why we can actually remember saying the static blocks, static initialization blocks are executed before the main method. Before the main method. And the last point is, after all this, JVM will start executing main method. And the last point is JVM will start executing the main method. So guys, this 8 points, this 8 points we have already seen in action. This 8 points we have already seen in action. Let's quickly go to one more program that has a flavor of all these things that we have actually learned till now. Okay, that has a flavor of all these points that we have learned till now. Let me quickly go. I want to write one more class. I would like to name it as, I say class. I want to name it as SIB3. Okay, I want to name it as SIB3. So let me make this language as Java. I want to name this as Java. So closing this, let me quickly write the main method, public static void main. Okay, so I can say string array.
Yeah, please increase
String.
the font.
Yeah, okay, sure. String array of args. Okay, so when I do this, I open my curly brace and I'm closing my curly brace. So this is my main method. This I have been doing. We have been writing this main method since quite some time. So we have seen the static variable till now. Let's try to write one static. Yeah. But before that, let's try to write one. Let's try to write one static variable. So what is that? Static int. I say age equal to. Okay. I say age. I do not want to initialize my age just like that. I want to call a method. I want to call a method and do that. So I can say something like init age. I want to write a method called init age. So this age, this method I want to call and then want to initialize this age. So let me quickly write this method. What is that? Static int init age. Okay. I have written this method. So let's say, what is my method saying in this? What is my method saying? My method is saying, let me quickly write down system dot out println. So what do I want to do? First thing that I want to do is from init age. I just want to have this thing. Okay, just for my confirmation, the system.out.println, I'm saying from init age. Okay, I'm saying from init age. So what do I want? I want to return, I do not want to put any processing logic, age logic, etc., into this method. I would like to simply say return 20. Okay, return 20. There is a static method that I have written, by the way, on line number 4. The static method is returning me an age of 20. Okay, it does nothing. I just have a print statement and it's returning a value of 20 for me. Okay, a value of 20 for me. So this is a static method. Okay, so since we are actually speaking about the static blocks, I want to add one static block to it. So let me add static. I want to quickly add one static block to it. So
Karthik, first can you go without static block? Then can you add? Because I think it might confuse, right? Just a suggestion.
yeah, okay. Then let's see the output of this particular one right away. Okay. So yeah. So what I did, I have written a variable called age and I'm calling a method called init age. I want to print. So in my main method also, I can say system. I want to print. I want to copy this line number 6. Okay. I copied this. Okay. I copied this and here I can say from main method. Okay. From main method. Guys, if you have a pen and paper with you, maybe you can guess the output and write it in your copies. So let me copy this. I say file, save as SIB3.java. So I created. So I have a new Java class which is saying SIB3, and it is having this particular code. Maybe you can guess the output and write it in your notebook. So let me compile this quickly. Java C. This is class name .java. When I do this, yes, I don't have any compilation error. Java, and this is my SIB3. SIB3. Oh, we did not even make use of, or let me copy this so that let me copy this. from init age and from main method. From init age and from main method, guys, we did not even make use of this age. So what I want to do is, I want to, I want to, I want to print the age value also, so that we are clear of what is happening. So I can say age equal to, and I say less age. Okay, the same thing I want to do it in my main method also. The same thing I want to do it in my main method. I just copied the line number 7 and I pasted in line number 13. That's it. I did not do anything else. Okay. Just for us to understand what is happening, I just added these two, printing statements. Okay, guys, I think you'd be better now to guess the output. You can write it in your copies. So let me quickly compile this once more. I will do this. Let me clear everything. Java C. I want to compile. I want to copy my class name, which is SIB3. So I copy .java. So when I do this, I don't have any compilation problem. Now it is the running part. When I do this, so let me quickly copy my output so that we can cross check and see what happened internally. So this is the line number 17. So what is this? From init age. From init age. So why did from init age print? Because this is just a second, guys. Oh, we did not even have a static block. I was searching for the static block. Sorry for that. So we have a static method called init age. This is being called on line number 3. So that is why we have this from init age method being printed over here. So what we did over here, this is printed as 0. Why? Because this is printed as 0 because it just called the init age. The it just called the init age, but the assignment did not happen yet. It just called it over here. By this particular line number 7, the value of age is still 0 because the initial value of age is 0. From line number 8, we are returning a value called 20. From line number 8, we are returning a value called 20. And we are saying from now onwards, you can use this value called 20. You can assign it to your variable. So until this particular point, until this init age method, we are seeing from init age. And what is the value of age? It is a default value called 0. So later on, what happens is JVM calls my main method. When JVM calls my main method, so I see this from main. I can see this. Now age is 20. Why did age become 20? Because my init age method has returned a value called 20 and it returned back, and the value of this age got reassigned from the default value to a value called 20. It is so simple. Okay. So this is very simple. Now let's try to add a little bit more complexity. And for the people who have guessed the output right, yes, you are on the right track. Very good. And for the people who have not guessed the output, then with my explanation, I think you should be able to correlate to whatever had happened. And if you have not guessed it right also, guys, there's no problem because you are here to learn. Let me quickly try to add a little bit more complexity to this particular program. Okay, I want to add a little bit more complexity. What is my complexity, by the way? I want to add a static block. So I want to add a static block. So what is my static block? I want to add a static block. So what is my syntax? Static, and I open a curly brace and I close a curly brace. Let me give a enter over here. Let me give a enter over here. So what do I want to print? Let me just quickly copy this. I want to copy this and I want to say SIB start. So what is this? SIB start. I want to say static initialization block start. Okay. And to say static initialization block start. So here, what I want to do is I want to call my main method. I want to call my main method without JVM calling my main method. I want to call my main method. Let me call this. So it is expecting a particular string array of arguments, right? I do not have anything right now. I want to pass it as null. I do not want to pass anything. I'm just calling the main method with the argument as null because I don't have any argument right now. Okay, I want to copy this and I will say end. Right, I want to say end. Guys, you can guess the output of this particular program. You can guess the output of this particular program. We have seen various rules till now. It is a combination of the rules that we have learned yesterday. It is a combination of rules that we have learned today. Okay, so let me quickly recap of whatever I have written. I have a variable called age. It is a static variable. And I have a method that actually initialization, or like it is saying it initializes the age with the 20. And I have a static block which does nothing. It just calls my main method. It just calls my main method. And then in my main method, I do not have anything. I just have a few what you call printing statements and nothing else. So you can guess the output of this particular program. But before that, I would like to copy this and say Java. Let me quickly give if you enter Java C and say SIB3.java. Okay. So I don't have any compilation problem. So I have to run this. Guys, I have the output over here. Let's see what is the output and how we can actually understand the output. I'd like to give a quick enter and say, this is my first from init age. Okay, so let me give this. Okay, from init age. So why is from init age called, guys? Why is the first statement from init age? From init age, it is because of my rule number one. It is because of my rule number one. So what is that? Or rule number, yeah, I can say it's because of my rule number two. What is that? Static blocks are executed when classes loaded into memory. Right? Before even calling the main method, I have a static block and this one will get executed. So what it says, SIB start. Okay. Just give me a second, guys. Just give me a second. From init age. Okay. So what is happening in our previous class? We have one more thing. In our previous class, in our previous class, Shashi sir has taught you about this rule. So what is that? Whenever we are running a particular class, then the class is loaded into the static memory. And in the static memory, all the static variables and all the static methods are loaded into the static memory. And then what is happening is on the line number or the rule number 4, once the static variables are loaded with default values, then the reinitialization happens from top to bottom. Then the reinitialization happens from top to bottom. Because of my rule number 4, what is happening is this reinitialization happens from top to bottom. There is this particular value called age. And to initialize that, I'm calling my init age method. I'm calling my init age method. So when I call this, because of this, my line number 313 is getting printed. This is from init age. But what is the value of age? The default value is already 0. So that is why we have the value of 0. Right? That's it. The reinitialization has already happened. Now, so what I told you is later on, we have these static blocks. At the time of class loading, we have the static blocks getting executed. We have the static blocks getting executed. Because of that rule, what is happening is we have this particular one, which is SIB start. Okay, we have this SIB start getting printed. Now, I have played around with this particular program, right? I have played around with this particular program, right? What I did, I just added more complexity to it. I only called main method. I did not want JVM to call my main method now. I only called main method from line number 8. So when I called this, so what is happening is it is directly saying from main method. And here it is saying age is 20. Why is age 20? Why is age 20? Because we have initialized that in this static method. We have initialized that in the static method. And from after this particular point, we are saying SIB end, right? Static initialization block is the end. And as per our rules, JVM will start executing the main method after all this story happens. So JVM has come into picture. It has started executing my main method. Here it is in from main method. And here we go. The age is 20 because we have not done any other things with the age. We have not executed or we have not initialized the value of age as something else. So guys, this is something that I want to tell you because this is a this is a culmination or this is clubbing of yesterday's class and today's actual learning of static initialization block. So this is how all these rules come into picture hand in hand and make you understand the various steps in the program. I want to maybe end towards end today's lecture with one particular thing. What is that? Even though this static initialization blocks is a concept that is given by Java, even though the static initialization block says that you have to initialize all your static members in this block, we as programmers in our real time tend to not use the static block. We directly use this way. We directly use this way. Why is it so? I don't know. Maybe it is just for the convenience. No, nobody has written that we have to do it in this way, do it in that way. Let's say you are given a provision, but I rarely see people doing it. But yes, when there are DB
Yeah, I mean, in
connections,
this way means you can initialize the value instead of method. Yeah.
yeah, something like this. Maybe I can say 10. Okay. I can set it. So generally in our programming practice, right, in most of our classes, in our day-to-day work, we do this kind of initialization only. Why is it so? Because maybe it's because of the convenience or people do not want to use the static initialization block. But you as learners of Java, right, you should know. Let's say you went into a company and your task is to analyze maybe your first task is to analyze the code and see, how it works. And if there is something called static inside the class and you do not know how it works, right? Nobody will come and say that this is how it goes. Nobody will teach you Java saying that this is the flow coming here, this is how it is getting executed, nothing like that, right? You should actually know what are the different concepts that are already there in Java. And even though people are using the way of direct initialization, you should know the static initialization part as well. And as part of your interviews or as part of your you know technical scrutiny, right, this kind of questions would be asked to test your actual depth of understanding of Java. So with this point, guys, I want to end today's lecture, handing it over to Shashi sir.